Like many Scientology staff members, Natalie Hagemo married young because the church did not allow intimate contact outside of marriage. At 18, she had a miscarriage. A year later, when she found out she was pregnant a second time, Natalie says 2 senior officers pressured her to have an abortion.
I was left with the idea of if I did not get the abortion, then I am letting down the entirety of mankind. You know, I'm letting down the Sea Org, I'm letting down, you know, LRH. You're going to let down all these people. Your teammates, they brought that up. You know, the other people in the organization you work in who depend on you. Who's going to do your job? So there's a lot of this guilt, and that's where the coercion comes in. Is it's, you know, using that position of authority that they had, you know, and you're guilted and guilted and guilted until, in a lot of cases, where they give in to that.
Natalie refused to have an abortion. She says church officials made it clear that she was to cover up the pregnancy and the baby girl she named Shelby. She was ostracized, even by her friends. The church says Natalie was never pressured to have an abortion. In a statement, a Scientology spokesman said, quote, "The church has the deepest respect for family and the creation of a family and children. There is no hostility toward pregnant women," end quote.
There was a woman, her name was Kay. She was in the public relations branch of the church. She gets close to me and she looks at my stomach like this, and she looks at me up and down, she did not approve at all. And she looks right at me and she goes, "How could you do that? You know, that." To come from somebody like her, who at the time would go out in public and represent the church, represent my religion, to refer to, you know, refer to, you know, my child like that, for one, as of that, was, you know, upsetting. I mean, my gosh, it's 19 years later, you know. My daughter's 19 years old, and and I'm obviously still upset about it.
By 2004, Natalie was living a new life. She had left the Sea Org, but was still active as a Scientologist. She had a second daughter. She moved to Minnesota. She remarried and had a son. That year, a Scientology recruiter approached Shelby to join the Sea Org. She was only 14.
I didn't even know what the Sea Org was before that. She just pointed out, you know, it'd be fun and really worthwhile for doing, and that a lot of people my age were doing it. I was like, that sounds really cool. I just want to call my mom, because my mom wasn't there. And then she's like, you know, why don't you just make the decision, and then we'll call your mom and tell her what you've decided, you know? And so I felt kind of like under a lot of pressure to make that decision just because I couldn't talk to my mom about it. I think I had some regrets about doing it, but at the same time I thought it would be really fun. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it.
Shelby went to Los Angeles and quickly learned how difficult life inside the Sea Org could be. She liked her Scientology studies and the rigorous work schedule, but was homesick. After only a week, she called home to ask her mother for help.
I just want to go. They kept trying to persuade me to stay. And I was like, I just want to go. I just want to leave. I kept calling my mom, and they didn't know that. When they found out, I got in trouble because I hadn't asked permission to call my mom. And they were like yelling at me about calling my mom and how I wasn't supposed to tell people if I want to leave, and how much trouble I'm creating. My grandma and my mom keep calling. And this is like, by the time it's like 3 weeks, it's like the 3rd week I'd been there, and they finally tell me that my parents have been calling like crazy and begging all the time. I didn't know the whole time that she'd even like done anything.
Natalie argued with the supervisor about getting Shelby discharged from the Sea Org. He said the church didn't need to follow non-Scientology law and that she had no right to yank her daughter from the organization. Worried, Natalie got on a plane to Los Angeles. She wanted to deal with the problem in person.
Shelby doesn't want to be here. Shelby wants to come home. I'm here to make sure it happens correctly. Because in our church, we have a solution when a problem arises, such as this one. And I'm not leaving here without my daughter. And it hit me after a few days, the irony. I'm like, this is ridiculous. The same organization that would rather of me aborted my pregnancy, not had my daughter in the first place. You know, had I listened, would rather have me got an abortion is now trying to take my daughter from me as a 14-year-old, because now she can be put to work. You know, now there's a benefit. Now she's not that. Now she's not just this thing. Now she's actually something that can be used.
2 weeks after Shelby first told church officials that she wanted to leave, she was finally allowed to walk out. Church spokesman Tommy Davis disputes the story, saying, quote, "No Sea Org member has ever been subjected to intimidation," end quote. He says that standard procedures were followed.
That's what they kind of do. They kind of single you out to make it seem like it's really hard. Like you can't do it, and then you're going to just like give in and just stay because it's like the right thing to do. And then, I don't know if I would have left if my mom didn't help me.
It was very important to me that Shelby understand what Scientology was versus her experience. I didn't want my daughter to discount an entire religion because of what she went through, because I, from then on, realized they were separate things.
Last year, Shelby was training in Clearwater to be a Scientology staffer. She and Natalie say that Shelby was again mistreated, and church members tried to alienate her from her family. The church says their accounts are untrue. Today, Natalie, Shelby, and other members of their family say they have left the church, but continue to practice Scientology on their own.
I never told her what happened 19 years before when I was pregnant with her, because I never wanted her to think that that's what Scientology was. There's a pattern of behavior. There's a pattern of human rights abuses. And it doesn't have a damn thing to do with the religion.